Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I'm Gary, your host, and this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. And it's February, or at least it will be by the time this gets uploaded. And and February is the month of love, because of Valentine's Day. And I'd start with something with a little bit of the romance, at least in concept, if not in fact, with Chili number 13. And this is, Chili number 13 from 1970. You see, it has a 15-cent cover price. Cheap at any price, or cheap at twice the price. And Chili is Millie's red-headed rival. She's Chili Storm, and this is done by Stan Lee and Stan Goldberg. Chili is a spin-off from the Millie the Model comics, and she is a co-worker and frenemy of Millie. And Chili ran from 1969 to 1973 for a total of 26 issues and an annual. Now, since she is from the world of Millie the Model, and Millie, Millie was created in 1945 by Ruth Atkins. She's a cartoonist and writer, and she started off. And Millie the Model, and hence her subsequent spin-off titles, including Chili, were the longest running humor title at Marvel. It went through, because started in 45 with Timely, went all through the 50s with at Atlas, and then on into the 60s and 70s at Marvel. And the Millie the Model characters, many of them, have been rolled into the mainstream Marvel Earth 616 universe. Yeah. And here you can see right here that it is Chili is done in this, what we think of as the standard Archie style. Well, now had been the case for quite some time, before and after, because Millie and etc. was done by Dan DeCarlo for like 10 years through the 50s, and Stan Goldberg and did it for quite a while here, and they both were big artists at the Archie comics for many years, and they utilized that stylization. Now for 3 to 4 years, from 63 to 67, Chili had been Millie, and all of her secondary characters had been backfit into a romance adventure title, and those are the ones that are hard to find, and I want to get some of those. And then went back to the working girl humor. That's what it started as, working girl humor, and it's of course, the style is very similar to Archie, except you don't have the teen humor. It's the same kind of humor, but for involving working women. Because remember, in the 30s and 40s, there were a lot of radio shows such as My Friend Irma, for example, about working girls, working women alone, usually as roommates and stuff, because that was more or less a novel thing. Working just until they can get married, right? And then they don't have to. That was the idea. So they was struggling to get along, and that is, even though here these are successful models working for the Hanover Modeling Agency, they're still on the prowl. And Chili is the biggest gold digger of the bunch. Yeah, she is a gold digger, and that's the crux of our first story here. But here on the cover, which is a Stan Goldberg cover, says, "Lady, I showed you every pair in the store, in the shoe store. What is it you're looking for?" And she goes, "I'm looking for the rain to stop," because she was in the store looking at all the shoes to get out of the rain. As usual, the cover is just basically a single panel gag cartoon. Now our first story, get that frog. There's this Stan Lee and Stan G. is Chili. Welcome to the club. And Chili is out with one of her beaux. I can't remember his name. And she goes, "Oh, Reggie, taking me to the Electric Barn," which is in their world is a big nightclub. And says, "No, wonderful." Says, No, we're going on over here on our date. He goes to the Stamp Collectors Club meeting, and they're all looking at all the stamp collections. And so Chili, being the superficial dolt that she is, has absolutely no interest and can conceive of no interest of like that. So there she is the next day with the other girls at the Hanover Modeling Agency, seeing with blonde Millie here and their friend Daisy, who also works there but not a model. And she's griping about that date, and Daisy says, "Oh, about you need to find richer men, something like at the Rich Bachelors Club." And so she takes off, goes right over to the Rich Bachelors Club, and said, "Oh, those rich men, they'll just go gaga over me." She walks right in and then gets booted out because no women allowed, because it's a Bachelors Club. And she gets tossed out on her can, and she goes back. She gets looking for a job. She figures if she can get in as a worker, she can shoehorn herself in. So she gets there. They hire her, but she's back in the kitchen and other areas. They just won't let her out with the gentleman. And so she's working. She's griping to herself the whole time about washing the dishes, taking out the trash. Finally, they're shorthanded out front after peeling some potatoes, and she goes out to serve the rich bachelors, and then she is flabbergasted. See, she's a gold digger. This is part of her romantic thing, and they're all a bunch of real old men. Like in their 80s. Of course, if she were died in a old gold digger, that would not matter. We've known gold diggers in their 20s marrying old men for their money. It's an old man's club. So, then, all through here, we see bits of nice stuff of Chili's fashions. Chili, what's in the name? The girls are trying to form a band, and then they get into a big argument over the name. This is with Clicker and I forgot the other guy's name. Clicker is their photographer, and ask about their names, and then they try to come up with a name, and they're arguing because each one wants to have the band named after themselves, and until Mr. Hanover comes out and says, "Why don't you call them Hanover's Honeys?" And that really gets them in trouble. Then there's a single-page ad of Millie and Clicker, because Clicker is Millie's boyfriend. Out in the rain, under an umbrella, and they're going, "Oh, it's so cozy under your umbrella because it's raining." "Yeah, so I've noticed." So they stand on the corner and they're just kind of schmoozing and snuggling, and then suddenly says, "Hey, Clicker, what's with you two? It stopped raining an hour ago." So the sun's shining and they're still schmoozing under there. Some more fashion stuff of Chili. Then there's a backup story. It's not Chili. It's Dolly Dimly. And says the lady takes a letter. Just some humor. This lady is platinum blonde, and she is Mr. Hanover's secretary and dumb as a box of rocks. And he's trying to get her to take a letter, dictation, and she doesn't understand anything. She doesn't understand dictation. She tries to take a letter, ask her to take a letter, and she starts writing her own. And no, says, do it on the typewriter. Says, silly, I can't sit on top of this little tiny typewriter. And he is so exasperated. Then she rushes the letter, comes back and says, I took the letter over to the guy you wanted to because he's next door. And Mr. Hanover has to go see his therapist. More chilly fashions, some nice stuff. And of course, Stan Goldberg, really, really nice artist. I want to say that. And it's some cute humor. I really want to get the romance stuff. That's stuff that's harder to come by. The Millie the Model romance stuff from the 60s. And a salesman trying to get in to see Mr. Hanover, and then keep getting booted out. And finally, the one guy he does take in is someone who is very schmoozy and successful at schmoozing because he's very flattering of him. So she's I gotta remember that. Then she hears about a part being cast for a producer. I can't remember if it's a movie or a stage producer, and they want a redhead. So she hears about it, she rushes over and finds all these other redheads already there because she was just sure she's going to get the part. But now she's not quite so sure because all these other gorgeous redheads. Oh, and so she talks to who's apparently the guy's assistant, wants to see so-and-so, and she says, oh, I just think he's so wonderful, and he's so romantic looking, and yada, 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 and says, well, it won't do you any good. He's not choosing you. And he goes, why not? Because I'm his wife. So you don't have a chance. Uh-oh. Yeah, and that is the end of Chile. I wanted to mention Chile is a rarity, both in comics and you don't see much anymore, is she's got a beauty mark, which is usually a mole on a cheek or on her chin or something like that. Often just put their makeup, but it is a beauty mark, and it's very, it's kind of like, I cannot remember her name. She was a popular actress in the 50s and 60s. She was in Forbidden Planet. I cannot think of her name. I even met her once, and I cannot think of her name. Played Honey West on TV. And I'm just drawing a blank. And she was well known because she had a beauty mark. Other actresses had a beauty mark. And it even had a thing in some comedy movies about ladies with beauty marks, because every time you see them, the beauty mark is in a different spot and stuff like that. So that's all I wanted to share with you this time, just to start off with a little bit of hopeful romance for the month of February, leading up to Valentine's Day. Jeez, I'm getting old. I couldn't remember the word. So thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe, leave your comments down below, and remember, comics are art.